Welcome, Mindsetters, to this session of Geography for Grade 12 Winter School. Hope you guys are nice and ready. You guys have got your pens, pads out. You guys are ready to make notes because I've got Kamlin here with me and he's going to be taking us through the session. So, what are we going to do today?
Hi, Ty. Today, geographers, it's climatology. Today, we're going to explore as many questions and answers based on geography from past year papers. Come on, guys, you got to get Facebooking and give Ty as many questions on climate as you can.
All right, so while Kamlin makes his way across there to the board, guys, you know the drill. Well, you should know by now. For winter school, you guys need to make sure that you guys get on the events page. And guys, look out for that challenge question. Then you can win these awesome prizes of these CD hampers and these awesome winter school books. Guys, I've got all this stuff to give away. So make sure you Mindsetters get on the page and get chatting. And don't forget, you guys can also enter on pep text and via SMS and email. Email win@learnextra. And guys, do not forget this SMS number. Hold on for it. In fact, no, I'll post it for you so you guys cannot forget it. So guys, make sure you guys get onto that page and post. Otherwise, you can't win. And guys, we're also making sure that we're trying to get to 13,000. We're so close. So tell your friends to tell a friend to tell another friend to all come onto the page and get chatting. But for me, I'm actually going to keep quiet now and I'm going to hand it over to Kamlin. Kamlin, take it away.
Hi, guys, and welcome back. Today, let's look at the question, Ty?
Yes, what we're going to be doing now is actually the challenge question, which is going to pop up also in the ad break. So make sure you guys watch out for it. The challenge question is the lines on a synoptic weather map linking places of equal pressure are known as A, isotherms, B, isobars, or C, isotopes. So guys, make sure you get onto the winter school events page and look out for that challenge question and go and post underneath with the code. Very important. That's the only way you guys can win these awesome hampers. So Mindsetters, make sure you get on that page. But for now, Kamlin, I think you can actually continue.
Thanks, Ty. And guys, welcome back. Today, we're going to look at climatology, and let's get straight into it. The first section that we're going to deal with is global air circulation. Remember, it's the first content, and it deals with pressure patterns over the entire globe. Our first question comes from the November 2012 NSC Paper 1. Let's look at the diagram. Now, if you notice this diagram, it tends to give you basically what we're looking at in terms of the three pressure systems. Your pressure systems are, as you can see, dominated in the southern hemisphere, and this diagram represented by your Hadley, Ferrel, and polar cell. Let's look at the types of questions that you're going to get. Question 1.1. The zone of convergence for the meeting of warm and cold air masses. When looking at this question, you will note that the answer is given as the polar front. Note the following. Your polar front is located at the 60-degree latitude. Note the following. This diagram is represented in the southern hemisphere. It gives you the Hadley cell between the equator, or 0 degrees and 30 degrees. Between 30 and 60, your Ferrel cell, and between 60 and 90, your polar cell. Moving on. This cell is the weakest of the three cells. The answer given is the Ferrel cell. Let's get a quick explanation in there. The Ferrel cell is the weakest cell as it is associated with air that is both descending and ascending. Okay, moving on to the next question. The formation of this cell is due to the high surface temperatures. When we look at questions of this nature, we should note the following. These types of questions are based on pure recall of knowledge, your knowledge of global air circulation in terms of the three pressure systems and the air movements associated. Let's go to the question. The formation of this cell is due to the high surface temperatures. Let's go back to the diagram and note the following. Your equator is associated with upliftment of air. This area here is associated as the heat equator, which is associated further with heated air. If we go back to the question, this cell, your correct answer is the Hadley cell. Moving on to the next question. The name of this global pressure belt that results from descending cold air at 30-degree latitudes. This kind of question requires you to constantly refer back to the diagram for hints and tips. In this particular answer, we're looking at the 30-degree latitude. In the 30-degree latitude, remember, you've got descending air at the tropics. The answer associated with this particular question, the name of the global pressure belt would be the subtropical pressure belt. Question 115. This pressure belt is associated with thunderstorms due to the convergence of warm winds. Remember, at your equator, you have warm air moving from the tropics to the equator, both in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Therefore, the correct answer would be your equator, or tropical easterlies. Note the following. The examiners are testing you on global air circulation. This particular question was structured in a way for you to refer to the diagram and answer quick questions. The pure recall of information makes this a level 1 question, where your knowledge is based and tested in applying that knowledge to the diagram. Moving on. Okay. Ty, how's it going there?
I think we actually have a couple of questions that are already coming in. I see one from Fatima Talia. I don't know, you want to tackle that one right now?
Let's look at what she's got.
Okay, so basically Fatima wanted to find out, she says, hey guys, I'm learning a lot. I just want to say, I just have one question. Do berg winds occur on the east or the west of southern Africa? Thank you. If you could help her with that, maybe.
Okay, let's look at Fatima. Your berg wind question is based on the knowledge that berg winds is a winter phenomenon. It's dependent on a high pressure system, commonly referred to as your Kalahari high, and also dependent on a coastal low. That coastal low generally forms anywhere along the coastline, both east and west of the country. So I would answer that as it is most common in the west coast, but generally does occur on the east coast as well.
Okay.
And remember, it's called a berg wind because it moves from the high veld, which is your high-lying area, down over the slopes of the escarpment, which includes the Drakensberg, down to the coastline.
All right.
How's that?
Yeah, I think that works.
Good. Let's move on. Are there any questions on global air circulation?
No, not yet. I'm still scanning the page. They're still coming in slowly. So guys, mindset is just get on the page and get chatting to us. And don't forget the events page too. But yeah, I think we're good for now.
Good. So global air circulation, guys, what's you to remember that it deals with cells that occur due to the pressure systems that develop at 0 to 30 degrees, which is your easterlies. The cell is referred to as the tropical easterly or feral cell. Your westerly wind belt, which is 30 to 60 degrees, and your 60 to 90 degrees, which refers to your polar easterly belt. What this section tests you is the knowledge of primary circulation. A primary circulation wind model refers to global movements of air over the entire Earth. We will now move on to tropical cyclones. Before we begin with tropical cyclones, I want you to note the following. Tropical cyclones, in terms of what you have to understand for your knowledge base for answering a matric exam, is the following. You should be able to answer stages of development, weather associated, and characteristics. When we're testing tropical cyclones, or mid-latitude cyclones for that matter, I want you to study it in this context. Remember, for these weather systems, you should know the stages of development, as well as the weather associated with the system, as well as the characteristics. In essence, tropical cyclones is a secondary circulation. This knowledge is taken from, yes, the primary circulation. So when we're dealing with tropical and mid-latitude cyclones, we are dealing with secondary circulation. Your knowledge of primary circulation helps you better understand the secondary circulations. The two weather phenomena in the secondary circulation is your tropical cyclone and your mid-latitude cyclone. The context in which you study these two systems is based on stages of development, weather associated, as well as characteristics. Remember the following. Characteristics, let's extend this page further. Stages of development. In your tropical cyclone, you have a stage of development where it's born and it moves on to its growth and eventually dies off. The terms used to describe these stages of development are as follows. Your first stage, which is referred to as the formative stage. The second stage, which is your immature stage, as well as your mature stage, which is associated with the heavy rainfall and gale force winds, and your decay stage. So, remember the following. When we're studying a secondary circulation, in terms of what we have to understand, the first aspect of secondary circulations when it comes to tropical and mid-latitude cyclones, and we'll focus specifically on tropical cyclones, is your stages of development. In the tropical cyclone, there are 4 stages of development: a formative, immature, mature, and decaying stage. Okay? When we're moving further to this explanation, the weather associated. Each stage is associated with a specific type of weather pattern. Generally, questions are asked on the mature stage, as the mature stage deals with the differentiated weather conditions of the eye, which is associated with calm, clear, cloudless conditions, as well as outside the eye, where torrential rainfall as well as gale force winds are experienced. When it comes to characteristics, you should be remembering the following. The characteristics of a tropical cyclone with aspects such as a low pressure system, as well as they are named alphabetically according to the number in the year, as well as various different aspects of formations and locations and so on. How's that so far, Ty?
I think we're okay so far. No questions as of yet. But yeah, I'll let you know if anything pops
Okay,
up.
do you think we need a break?
I think we can go on for a couple more minutes.
Okay, cool. So, when we're looking at the tropical cyclone, these are the stages that we associate with. What is important is the following. You remember that it's a secondary circulation that occurs within the tropical easterly wind belt. Your tropical easterly wind belt is associated with, correct, heated air that moves from your tropics to the equator. Due to this movement of air, the common occurrence or weather system is the tropical cyclone. We will be referring to questions on the tropical cyclone as we move along. Also, your mid-latitude cyclone. Your mid-latitude cyclone is also a secondary circulation, which is important for you to remember. The mid-latitude cyclone occurs from 30 to 60 degrees, which is your westerly wind belt. These weather systems largely influence our weather in southern Africa because we are located between 0 and 60 degrees. Therefore, these two weather systems occurring in these two wind belts will generally affect the weather in South Africa. Further to that, in climatology, aspects such as urban heat islands, summer and winter conditions, various different aspects of climate in terms of tertiary circulations are then studied. The context of your climatology should be as follows. You will look at grade 10, 11, and 12. It is a slow build-up of knowledge, the elements of weather. In terms of that, you should know the following, that there are 4 elements to weather. In terms of weather, you've got temperature, moisture, pressure, and wind. When you study these 4 components, you bring them together in your grade 12 content to understand the aspects of primary, secondary, and tertiary circulations. What is also important to remember is that your tertiary circulations deal with climate at a local level. So when we dealing with questions today on valley climates, city climates, examples, these are examples of tertiary circulations. Climatology is going to help you better understand the weather phenomena that exists out there. Your questions and practicing past year and previous papers will assist you to further develop your knowledge of climate and weather. I want to quickly show you a diagram that will assist you. Remember, when it comes to climate, the following is important. A simple flow diagram would assist you to answer any question that is based on climatology. When we're dealing with primary climatology, we are dealing with global air circulation. When you're dealing with secondary circulations, you're dealing with both tropical as well as mid-latitude. Let's add the word cyclone in there, so we remember that it is both a low-pressure system. In tertiary circulations, you're dealing with summer and winter conditions over South Africa. You're dealing with valley climates. You're dealing with urban climates. Your grade 12 climatology is divided into these particular sections. Your knowledge has to move across in order for you to understand how each of these different levels of climatology affect the next. Your knowledge starts off at grade 12 with the beginning of global air circulation, and thereafter tropical and mid-latitude cyclones of secondary circulations, as well as your tertiary, which is summer and winter conditions, valley climates, and urban climates. How's that, Ty?
I think, yeah, that's quite a lot so far. So I think we should give them a little bit of a break so their minds can settle and be like, okay, yeah, next session was going to be a lot of work.
Next session, we've got some good questions from 2011 matric paper to get them answered.
All right. So, guys, well, Mindsetters, you guys know the drill. Make sure you get onto the winter school events page to post. I see a lot of you guys posting everywhere. Just post under the actual competition question. It's also going to pop up in the ad breaks. So make sure you look out for it. Get on the page and post. You can enter as many times. And guys, don't forget, you can also email win@learnextra.co.za. Also on PepText, it's free. And guys, you can SMS on 083 44888810. I'm going to say it again, 083 44888810. So guys, get posting, and you can win these awesome prizes. But from us, we're going to see you just after this break, so see you soon. Welcome back, Mindsetters. I hope you had a nice little break. You did whatever you had to do, went to the bathroom, got yourself some snacks, whatever you needed to do so you don't have to go anywhere. So you stay glued in your seats and you have your pens and pads out and you guys are making notes. But besides that, guys, do not forget to go to the events page. If you want to win these awesome prizes, make sure you go and you post under the actual challenge question, under the comments there. Hit that button and then go there and post with your number. You can enter as many times as you want. Guys, you can also email, you can SMS us. Guys, write these numbers down. SMS on 083 44888810. Guys, please make sure that you enter because I want to get rid of this stuff. I don't need it. It's for you guys. So I'm actually going to keep quiet now and hand it over to Kamalan. Take it away.
Thanks, Ty. And guys, welcome back. The first question we're going to do is related to global warming and climate change. Now remember, there's a common misconception. Climate change is basically the overarching aspect, And one of the influences of climate change is global warming. In your 2011 November paper, one of the questions was based on climate change. Let's have a look at that question. Figure 1.4 is a cartoon that highlights the issues of climate change and its effects. The examiners have given us a lovely diagram in order to better understand climate change. Note the following. The first question is, what do you understand by the term climate change? One of the aspects that you should remember is when examiners are testing this type of question, they are generally referring you to first the knowledge recall. In this kind of question, you should be able to note the following. What do you understand by the term climate change? Let's break this word up. Climate is the weather conditions associated over a longer period of time. When we refer to climate, we're referring to the observation of weather patterns over a longer period of time, example, a longer days, months, and years. When it refers to one day, we refer to it as weather. It's important to draw that distinction. Change, another word for change is to alternate. So when we're talking to climate change, we are talking to the weather observed over a longer period and its alternative or changes. So a simple definition could be the weather patterns and its changes over a longer observed period. Note the following. The first question generally sets to ask, how much do you remember of the knowledge and contents that you've been addressing in class? So you should be able to recall this knowledge and answer this question. This types of questions leads you to the next question, which should require you to apply more knowledge. So remember, the first question is a pure recall question and is based on knowledge of climate change. Hence the question, define the concept climate change. Let's look at the next question. 142. Explain how it is possible for flooding to be linked to petrol use. This kind of question requires you to now take the knowledge of climate change and apply it to a concept of petrol usage. Now remember, petrol is generated from fossil fuels. So the burning of fossil fuels results in petroleum or petrol. When fossil fuels are burnt, they emit carbon to the atmosphere. This carbon is generally in the form of carbon dioxide and therefore increases the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, results in higher temperatures. Carbon monoxide is the result of petrol that is burnt. So remember, when petroleum enters into the car's fuel tanks and when that fuel is burnt as the car is running, the emission gas that is released through the exhaust pipes is referred to as carbon monoxide. This carbon monoxide is released into the atmosphere and increases the level of pollution in the atmosphere. What is unique about carbon monoxide is this type of gas absorbs and stores more heat. As carbon monoxide increases in the atmosphere, the rate of temperature and heat in the atmosphere increases. As a result, we're going to call it CO3 in the atmosphere absorbs heat. So what the examiner is testing in this type of question is your ability to apply the knowledge of the burning of petrol and its relationship to climate change. Simply remember the following. The type of question is requiring you to apply your knowledge of climate change and global warming to the burning of petrol. In this example, you should know the following. Carbon monoxide is a gas or emission from exhaust pipes. This gas when released into the atmosphere, has an ability to store and absorb heat. Remember, this type of pollution is dominating across most of the world. And therefore, when the insolation or the incoming solar radiation reaches the Earth's surface, carbon monoxide absorbs more heat and this stores heat around the Earth's surface. Let's look at the next question. Sustainable measures. Immediately, you should be referring to sustainable development. Need to be taken to address the challenges associated with flooding. The concept of flooding in relation to sustainable development. Remember, flooding is one of the consequences of global warming. The question, write a single paragraph, approximately 12 lines, discussing possible solutions that local municipalities can employ to reduce the effects of flooding. Now note the following. We've moved from a level 1 question which simply asks you to define the concept of climate change. The second question required you to take that knowledge of climate change and apply it to the burning of fossil fuels, for example, petrol. Thereafter, a paragraph question. You should be seeing the pattern in which exam questions are based, from pure recall of knowledge to applying that knowledge and then evaluating that knowledge. This particular question, question 134, is asking you to draw a paragraph or write a paragraph. This paragraph must be 12 lines and must contain at least 6 points, which will assist you to get the full marks. In this example, you will be also suggesting possible solutions to local municipalities. What we're going to do is identify possible solutions for local municipalities. Let's look at it. In terms of this, the problem is flooding. Immediately, you should be concentrating on dam construction. Most municipalities are dependent on dams and reservoirs. So dam constructions stroke reservoirs will assist local municipalities in the provision of water to the various different local authorities in that community. The second one, vegetation. And here there can be many points on vegetation, including the planting of trees, as well as growth of plants along riverbanks. Let's extend it further. The next point is as follows. Remember, we are looking at local municipalities, so an aspect that should be considered is legislation. Legislation refers to the movement of water through pipes in local municipalities. Further answers could be further answers could be as follows. Legislation regarding the obtaining of flood waters in communities through early warning. When it comes to local municipalities and their abilities to sustain flooding, what you have to remember is there has to be legislations in that community so that there's early warning systems. In most developing countries, these authorities have systems in place in order to curb the flow. Possible solutions can range from channeling water, which is another aspect that to consider, through direct flow into river systems. Other aspects that can be considered is flowing water and strengthening the riverbanks. You will note the following. When it comes to a paragraph question, you've got to be able to explore all possible answers and then indicate them in full sentences in the form of a paragraph. At least 6 points on this section will allow you to get the full marks. How's it going, Ty?
So far we're good. No, do you want to tackle a couple questions right now?
Let's deal with a couple questions.
Well, Sipokazi wanted to find out. She says, I'm loving the show. Can you guys please distinguish for me the difference between tropical and mid-latitude cyclones? Do mid-latitude cyclones occur in South Africa, and how do they originate, actually?
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sipokazi, for the question. Remember, before we differentiate, let's draw in similarities. Similarities of the mid-latitude and tropical cyclones is that both are low-pressure systems and both are forms of secondary circulations. What is also important is that in terms of similarities, both occur throughout the world because these are taken from your pressure systems in the primary circulation. So remember, your tropical easterly belt extends from 0 to 30 degrees. So all across the globe, between the equator and 30 degrees north and south, you would have an occurrence of tropical cyclones. And then between 30 and 60 degrees south and north is your westerly wind belts. And these are your mid-latitude cyclones. Sipokazi asks us, Ty, to differentiate between the two. Remember, in that kind of question, Sipokazi, you should be able to draw a table of this nature. And I'm going to write it in short for you: tropical cyclones and mid-latitude cyclones. Remember, the first aspect of the comparison is as follows. This tropical cyclone occurs in your tropical easterly wind belt. Your mid-latitude cyclone in your westerly wind belt. Let's add more. The weather associated, both, remember, have stages of maturity. However, during the mature stage of the tropical cyclone, you have an eye present. In the mature stage of a mid-latitude cyclone, you have an occluded front. Another aspect, remember the following. Tropical cyclone occurs on the eastern side of continents and mid-latitude cyclones on the western side of continents. Another aspect, in terms of their movement, remember, tropical cyclones move from the west, let's do that again, from the east to the west, which means tropical cyclones move in a westerly direction. Your mid-latitude cyclones move from the west to the east. So mid-latitude cyclones move in an easterly direction. Sipokazi, these are a few aspects that I hope would assist you because the type of question that you're looking at is in a tabulated form. A possible question could be tabulate the differences between tropical and mid-latitude cyclones. How's that, Ty?
I think that answered her question, and I think for now we're good to continue.
Okay, good. Let's move on to the next question. The next question, again, we're working with the final paper of 2011, deals with valley climates. Refer to figure 2.1, which shows air movement in a valley. Choose the correct words from those given in brackets. Write only the words next to the question number 211 to 215 in the answer book. Let's have a look at the diagram firstly. If you observe this diagram, you should note the following. There is your valley, which is represented by the thick line, And thereafter, you've got air moving from A downslope. From A downslope. Also important is the following. You've got the label B and B. Let's look at the first question. The valley wind labeled A is an anabatic or katabatic wind. A is a katabatic wind. Look at the hint on the diagram. It is nighttime. So A would be katabatic. Katabatic. Remember, how do we best remember this? Katabatic is your night wind, anabatic is your day wind. A, anabatic, day, K, katabatic, night. So, let's move on to the next question. This wind occurs during the night. So, that's 2 more marks for anabatic and katabatic winds. It is also referred to as an upslope or downslope wind. If we look at our diagram, A refers to air moving down the slope. So that's an easy answer. And all the hints and tips are on your diagram. So A would be, it is referred to as a downslope wind. (214). The zone labeled B is a thermal belt or frost pocket. If we look at the zone B, zone B is in that area there. And note, it is in the mid path of the upper slope and the bottom slope. So that area there is generally associated with, correct, your thermal belts. The frost pocket generally occurs at the bottom. Remember, frost-resistant crops are grown at the bottom of a valley. Generally, you have frost-resistant crops at the bottom of the valley, and therefore, this area here is associated with your thermal belt. What happens is that air stays at night and rises up but stays below the valley. So your correct answer for this question is thermal belt. The next question, the form of precipitation experienced at sea is, if we look back at our diagram, sea, remember, again, that is the bottom of the valley, and therefore, the form of precipitation that occurs at the bottom of a valley is your frost. Frost is the general occurrence with valley climates. So, what are the concepts we need to remember in this section? Remember, valley climates is a tertiary circulation. Tertiary circulations deal with climates at a local level in a specific area. So when we're referring to a valley, it is a specific area and it has its own microclimate, climate at a local level. What is also important is there are unique air movements in a valley. So the 2 types of air movements in a valley are referred to as katabatic and anabatic winds. The katabatic winds occur during the night. The night winds, where the air moves downslope because of the cooling. Your anabatic winds occur during the day, where the air moves upslope due to the heating from the sun. Therefore, we have that content. And what you have to remember is as follows. You have a thermal belt forming at night. A thermal belt is a belt of air that prevents the air from the bottom of the valley to rise above. Remember, your bottom of the valley is associated with frost pockets. Therefore, frost-resistant crops are grown in the valley. How's that, Ty?
I think that was a lot of information. I think we should give them a little bit of a break, you think?
I think so too.
All right, so mindsetters, make sure, I can't stress enough, you guys get to the events page and post. Because guys, I'm trying to give away these awesome prizes, these awesome hampers with these winter school books for you guys to study and pass these exams. So guys, I cannot stress enough, make sure you enter. Remember, you can email win@learnextra.co.za. Also, enter via pep text. You can also SMS on 08344888810. So, mindsetters, get on the page and get posting. But, guys, do not forget we still have a lesson. So, you need to be multitasking, yeah? But guys, also look out for the ad. It's in the challenge question is in the ad. So guys, make sure you have your answers ready and you post. But for me, I'm going to see you guys just now. Welcome back, Mindsetters. I hope you had a nice little break and you went to go do whatever you need to do, like I always say, so you can stop fidgeting and pay attention. Guys, have your pens and pads out and you guys are making notes because this is for you guys. This is for you guys for your study notes for winter school. So guys, make sure, and guys, I cannot stress enough, make sure you get on the events page, look at today's date and post under the challenge question. Right there where it says comment, you click and you write your comment or you post your answer and you can stand a chance to win these awesome prizes, and you can enter as many times as you want. So guys, hey, it's for free. So if I was you, I would enter. But for now, I'm actually going to hand back to Kamlan. Take it away.
Thanks, Ty. And guys, welcome back. A lot of you are asking questions on tropical cyclones, and what we've decided to do is take the 2011 paper and the question on tropical cyclone to help you better understand the types of questions you will get around this content. Now, note the following. For 2011, what was asked was a case study. And in this case study, you will be referring to the knowledge, content, and then tested on this content. Let's look at this case study. This case study deals with tropical cyclone or cyclone Yassi, which occurred in Australia. And I know the moment you're looking at it, you're thinking, Australia, I've been taught willy willies. Remember, a cyclone is referred to this system in Australia, but willy willy is the same term that is used to describe a cyclone. So let's read the following. The category 5, and immediately your eye should be referring to this. Category 5 cyclone tears roofs, pubs, and houses, topples trees, and sends power cables crashing onto the roads. The residents of Australia are assessing the damage after the cyclone, Yassi, the largest tropical storm. Note the following. Since Europeans first settled there, created winds of 280 kilometers. Remember, this would be referred to as gale force winds. And waves more than 9 meters. Remember, when it comes to these kinds of waves, we refer to them as tidal waves. A wave higher than the tidal wave, correct, is called a tsunami. So, let's go on. Thousands of the 400,000 people living in the path of the 500-kilometer wide cyclone. Note, reference is made to the extent of the cyclone. Spent sleepless nights in hot and crowded emergency evacuation centers set up in primary schools and shopping centers. I want you to note the following, right? And shopping centers deemed strong enough to withstand the cyclone and avoid the storm surges. Important, up to 8 meters high. Moving on. The Mission Beach power cables crashed onto the roads and mature trees and palms were toppled. This content is referring to the effects of the tropical cyclones. But local residents also reported an unusual half hour in the eye. And I want you to note the following, unusual in the eye of the storm. It's the strangest thing to go outside and see the stars and there is no wind for half an hour. Now, this type of question sets the context for you to be tested on tropical cyclones. The examiner, and generally your exam papers, where there's a case study involved, is requiring you to adapt the knowledge that you have on tropical cyclones and be able to apply it to the case study. Let's look at the type of questions that were asked from this paper. The first question deals with a pure recall of information. What I need you to understand and what you should be taking note of, learners, is the following. The way the questions are layered, from the easy questions to the little bit more difficult to the high-level questions. Your ability to answer and recall information is what's going to score you marks. your ability to apply that information into the case study is going to get you even more marks. And the ability of you to draw on all your knowledge and apply it to the highest level of questions is what's going to get you those A's in geography. The first question should be an easy question. On what date did Cyclone Yassi strike the coast of Australia? If we go back to the diagram given, you will note the following. In this diagram, you have the sequential movement of the cyclone to the coast of Australia. There's your coastline represented by that line. Now, the question asks you for the date. Hence, this is the date given according to the diagram. What I also want you to understand is, as the cyclone is moving, it has already reached the mature stage because it is represented by the eye in all diagrams. But that eye is still existent on this day, which is the 2nd of February 2011. So the answer to that question would be 2nd February 2011. And this question, as I've explained to you, is pure asking you to go into the diagram or the notes and simply draw out that information. These are the types of questions one would expect you to just get the full marks for. Let's look at the next question. Name 2 conditions that would have favored the development of Yassi. Now, during your school days and in classroom, your teachers would have discussed with you the stages of development of a tropical cyclone. There are many that we can identify. However, what this question is asking you to do is draw from your knowledge that you've learned in class and apply it to this particular diagram. Simple questions like this would require you to answer from your knowledge. So my first answer would be 27 degrees Celsius temperatures. Guys, commit this to memory. Remember, 27 degrees Celsius is the temperatures at which the mature stages are reached for the tropical cyclone. One of the conditions for the formation of the tropical cyclone is temperature. Temperatures, as they increase to when they reach a temperature of 27 degrees Celsius, you have your mature stage. That is the amount of heat required to reach the mature stage and for the eye to be formed. So one of the conditions I would identify is your 27 degrees Celsius. Other aspects that I would want you to identify is as follows. Remember the rapid upliftment of air. Now, remember the following. One of the conditions necessary for a tropical cyclone to form is a rapid upliftment and cooling of air. If there are high temperatures coming in to the surface, this causes terrestrial radiation which heats up the air above the surface and forces it to rise. Remember the concept. Insolation heats up the Earth's surface and results in terrestrial radiation which heats up the air masses above the surface. This forces air to rise. With our tropical cyclone, we require rapid upliftment of air and cooling of air for condensation to occur. These are 2 aspects that you may identify. One of the other aspects that I like you to remember and commit to memory is as follows. The low frictional drag over the ocean surface. Remember that air moving over the ocean surface is dependent on the stability and calm oceans for it to rise more rapidly. Commit that to memory. So your 2 aspects that you should be remembering is 27 degrees Celsius of temperatures, rapid upliftment and cooling of air for condensation to occur, as well as the low frictional drag over the ocean surface. Let's move on to the next question. What evidence from figure 1.3 suggests that cyclones are common in Australia? If we look at the diagram again and immediately refer to the question, what you should note is the following. Your tropical cyclones are generally named alphabetically. Yes, you've learned that in class. But this kind of question requires you to take that knowledge to the next level. If tropical cyclones are named alphabetically in a year, and we're dealing with tropical cyclone Yassi, and Yassi Y is the 25th letter of the alphabet. That means that 25 cyclones have occurred in Australia alone, and therefore the common occurrence of tropical cyclones in Australia is depicted by the naming of the tropical cyclones. Hence, the question, if we go back to it, is answered as follows. What evidence is there from figure 1.3, the naming of the tropical cyclones suggests that these cyclones occur frequently. Okay, well answered. Now note the following. I want you to look at these kinds of questions in your prep and remember that your knowledge is being tested, your ability to apply that knowledge, as well as your ability to use knowledge from different sources and apply it to the question. Explain what do you understand by a Category 5 cyclone. This type of content is referred to in the article, and what you should remember is the following. A Category 5 cyclone, as suggested in the article, is a storm surging tropical cyclone. It is associated with destructive weather conditions. It stands to reason, therefore, that a Category 1 cyclone would be less destructive. So what the examiners require you to do is, I'm going to write it in brackets, refer to the level of destruction. We can also refer to weather conditions. So an explanation of that, and that's your hints for this answer, remember the following. A Category 1 cyclone is associated with weather conditions that are normal in the form of normal rainfall or light rainfall. As an extreme, your Category 5 cyclone would be a torrential rainfall and a gale force wind cyclone. Now, these would be associated with huge amounts of damage to the local environments. Let's look at the weather conditions. Your weather conditions, light rainfall, slow winds. But in your Category 5 cyclone, you would have more destruction due to the heavy rainfall, the gale force winds as well. Consider the following. This type of content is using your knowledge through the article to apply and making judgments on this type of category. Let's look at the next question. Refer to the statement, local residents reported an unusual half hour in the eye, as we've underlined it. Question A, why do they describe the weather conditions in the eye as unusual? What is important here is the weather conditions associated during the mature stage. In the mature stage, you have the development of the eye, which is an essential portion of the tropical cyclone. The eye is your area of calm, clear, cloudless conditions. Around the eye, you have the development of what we would call the dangerous semicircle. And the dangerous semicircle is associated with gale force winds as well as torrential rainfall. It is in this area that your most extreme weather conditions occur and therefore the highest amounts of destruction. Note, eye, calm, clear, cloudless conditions. That's what makes it unusual, because the center of the storm is associated with zero weather conditions. But around the weather system, you have the gale force winds as well as the torrential rainfall. Hence, the development of the dangerous semicircle. So, why do we describe the weather conditions in the eye as unusual? The answer there is associated with calm, clear, cloudless conditions. Moving on to the next question. Explain what causes the unusual conditions in the eye. Simply, upliftment of air masses as well as divergence in upper atmosphere. As we've explained before, the center of the storm is your eye, and it's associated with the air moving up into the upper atmosphere. As this air moves, it is diverging. So your weather conditions in the eye is uplifting air as well as diverging air. Around the eye, you have your heavy clouds as well as torrential rainfall and gale force winds. How's it going there, Ty?
I think we're doing all right.
How's
We actually had a question from Nokuzula. I don't know if you can just quickly cover it before we go to a quick ad break.
Let's do that.
She wanted to find out, which I think was a very interesting question, why is the impact of tropical cyclones on human life more severe in developing countries than it is in developed countries?
Excellent question. And this type of question is requiring you to apply your knowledge to the various different types of countries that we have. In our world, we have both developed countries and developing countries. And they are distinguished by the nature and amount of technology. In your developed countries, they are more technologically inclined, whereas in your developing countries, they are still trying to get up to speed. It stands to reason, therefore, that in a developed country or the developed world, you would have technology that is able to withstand the pressures of a tropical cyclone. In a developing country, they are less prepared, and therefore they do not have the technology for early warning systems. Remember, your developed country as well has buildings that are constructed of specifically designed materials that is able to withstand those extreme weather conditions. However, in your developing country, you have a situation where poorer countries require poorer materials to be used in the development of their buildings, and therefore they do not have the infrastructure to withstand those kinds of weather conditions. How's that, Ty?
I think that pretty much answered it for her.
Good.
Think we should go for a quick ad break?
Let's go for a quick ad break.
All right, so mindsetters, you know the drill. Get on the page and keep posting, keep chatting. And guys, by the way, we're so close. We're almost there to 13,000. Just a couple of people. Just invite your friends to invite friends to invite friends onto the page. 13,000, we're almost there. But guys, also, don't forget that there's still the Winter School Challenge question you can win these awesome prizes with. So make sure you go and post. Enter as many times as possible. The other day, we almost had 140 comments. We're trying to beat that. So make sure you get on there so you can win these CDs, these awesome winter school books. So guys, make sure you post. But for me, I'm going to see you after this break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice break. As I always say, you've got your pens and pads out, you're ready to go. And I hope you've been entering on the page because the competition is now closed. But we'll reveal the winner at the end of the show. So guys, stay tuned. You don't know, it could be you. So guys, make sure you keep chatting on the page though, because the lesson is not over. Because actually, during the break, we actually had a question from Sifiso. He wanted to find out, how important is it for us to know the different categories of tropical cyclones?
Great question, Safiso. How important is it to know the different categories of tropical cyclones? Well, it is important. It was something that was never asked before up until last year. So your examiner expects you to know this kind of information. What is important is you will note categories of tropical cyclones was never done as content in your book. However, the context in which the question was given allowed you to read the information from the text. So this question is going to help you better understand and apply that knowledge. So yes, I hope you've learned about categories of tropical cyclones. Last year's paper allowed you to have that knowledge. However, the knowledge that was required and tested was given to you in the source, in the case study. How's that, Tommy?
I think so. I think that'll cover that for him.
Okay.
And I wondered, there's another question actually that came in from Caribou, aka Cabsy.
Cabsy.
She wanted to find out, cyclones are names of their occurrences respective to the 26 letters of the alphabet. What happens if a country then gets hit by a cyclone more than 26 times? Do they start back from A, or
Excellent
how does that work?
question. And it's one of the types of questions I'm talking about, guys, where we move questions to the different levels. What we've learned in class is that tropical cyclones are named alphabetically. So that means in a year, 26 cyclones are named. However, what happens when you get the 27th cyclone? Correct, Kabzi. It goes back to Cyclone A. However, it cannot occupy the same name. So when I started at the beginning of the year with my tropical cyclones, my first name could have been Tropical Cyclone Andy. When it comes back to the 27th tropical cyclone, you would be calling it by another name. For example, Andile. Does that help?
I think so. That
Great.
should cover it.
Great, guy. Keep on coming in with those questions, guys. There's a lot of questions on tropical cyclones, and hopefully today we'll clear some of those myths that you have. Let's move on to the question paper. The next question deals with what is the local name for tropical cyclones in Australia? I want you to note the following, that a tropical cyclone is what it's called in southern Africa. However, in Australia, we generally refer to it as just a cyclone. However, an alternate name could be Willy. You know, these Australians come up with fancy names like this. So cyclone or Willy is a common occurrence for Australia. Just some revision for you guys. Remember, in the Southeast Asian Pacific area, you have what we call typhoons, as well as the northeastern seaboard of the United States is what we call a hurricane. Whether it's a hurricane, a typhoon, a tropical cyclone, a willy, or just a cyclone, all is the same weather phenomenon. You are associating all these with the low pressure system. It is just the same type of weather phenomenon, but known by different names in different parts of the world. Generally, these are the characteristics that we're talking about that you have to know. The hurricane, remember, is the northeastern seaboard of the United States of America. The typhoon is on the Southeast Asian Pacific areas, as well as Indonesia. The cyclone or hurricane in Australia, as well as us in Southern Africa, who call it by a tropical cyclone. Let's move on to more questions. Question 137. What do you think Australia would why do you think Australia would have an efficient emergency program ready to handle natural hazards? As we've just discussed, guys, remember, there's two types of countries that experience tropical cyclones. You have your developing countries and developed countries. Australia, for example, is a developed country. That means it has been developed to the technological level where these kinds of storms will be able to withstand their buildings in terms of infrastructure. So Australia, being a developed country, is better able to work and understand these kinds of tropical cyclones. So my answer here would be the following. Australia is a developed country and therefore has infrastructure. Remember, when we refer to infrastructure, we are referring to the buildings, the roads, the railway lines, the power lines, and so on. That is able to withstand these weather conditions. Worth noting as follows. The types of questions you will get on tropical cyclones, again, are generally based on the case study that you are using. When you get these types of questions, be able to differentiate your knowledge. Your knowledge questions are generally asked to test your ability to remember the information. Your application questions, which take you to the next level, is requiring you to take your knowledge and apply it to the case study. In today's example, we have used the 2011 paper of Tropical Cyclone Yassi. And your third level question is the type of question that it allows you to take all this knowledge together and apply it using your own experiences. I hope that helps. How's it going, Ty?
I think we're okay right now. I'm still waiting for more questions to come in, but yeah, I'll let you know as soon as anything pops up.
Great. Let's move on to more papers. Okay, you want to give us some information on what's going on there, Ty, in the Facebook?
Yes, we're actually so close, mindsetters, to that 13,000 mark. We're on 12,942. So guys, keep telling your friends to tell friends to get more friends to come onto the page and get chatting. Then we can hit that 13,000 mark. So guys, I'm excited. Come on, we can do it. But I think we should go back
Excellent,
to the,
Ty.
to the
Thanks.
lesson.
And now let's move on to our next weather phenomenon of secondary circulation. I just want to repeat what we've been discussing. We started with global air circulation, which is from the primary circulation model. Then we moved on to a tropical cyclone. A tropical cyclone is from your secondary circulation models. Remember, the two weather systems that we study in secondary circulation is your tropical cyclone and as well as your mid-latitude cyclone. The tropical cyclones occur in your tropical easterly wind belt. The mid-latitude cyclone occurs in your correct westerly wind belt. Let's look at a question dealing with this content in the westerly wind belt. In this question, we've been given a synoptic weather map. Let's look at the reference point. Again, it's 2011, paper 1. Study the synoptic weather map in figure 2.3 and answer the questions below. In the synoptic weather map, we've been able to clearly identify southern Africa. What I would suggest to you is look at the focus areas. You have a high pressure system moving in from the South Atlantic towards South Africa. You also have a dominant high pressure system, You also have a dominant high pressure system over the Indian Ocean. The specific names given to these weather systems are as follows. Your dominant South Atlantic high, your dominant South Indian high. You will note the following. There is a cold front that occurs to the southern part of South Africa. You should note that this cold front is too far south to affect the weather conditions of southern Africa. However, there's another cold front that is approaching the western section of South Africa, largely your Western Cape area. So this cold front would generally bring in around rainfall. Also on the synoptic weather map, you have an accentuated weather station. This is weather station of Durban. You will note the maximum temperature is given as 21 and the dew point temperature at 6. Note also that there's clear skies and there is, correct, a northerly wind blowing. Labels on this particular synoptic weather map suggest D, E, C, A, B. Let's look at the types of questions given. Name the anticyclone labeled B. Anticyclone labeled B. An anticyclone occurs to the east of the country. This anticyclone is referred to as your South Indian high. When this anticyclone occurs over the Indian Ocean, it is the South Indian high. This air that is associated with this high pressure system brings in warm, moist air onto the east coast of South Africa. Remember, this warm, moist air is bringing in the rainfall that generally occurs along the east coast in areas like Maputo, Richards Bay, and Durban. This warm, moist air creates rainfall to eastern parts of the country. On the western half, you have your South Atlantic high. Your South Atlantic high ridges in air onto the west coast. As you can see in this particular diagram, this would suggest a ridge of high pressure. The moment you have an elongation of isobars, it is suggesting to you the direction in which the air is moving. In this case, this warm, moist air moves towards the east coast of South Africa, in particular, Durban. Let's look at the question again. Name the anticyclone label B.
I'm thinking before we jump into the question, I think we've already gotten a lot of information. Do you think we should go for a quick ad break?
Do you want to?
I think so.
I think so too. Let's
All
go
right.
for the ad break.
So mindsetters, so I had to jump in there real quick. I need to make sure that these guys keep focused, so they need to take their little breaks so they can go attention, you know. But mindsetters, make sure you guys keep chatting on the page, keep inviting your friends, keep talking, because we're not done yet. So guys, make sure you come back after this break. See you soon. Welcome back, mindsetters. I hope you had a nice little break. We are now in the final stretch. So guys, make sure you got your thinking caps on, you got your pens, pads out, and you guys are making notes. I'm not even going to waste time. I'm going to hand it straight over to the man. Take it away.
Thanks. And guys, thank you for the positive comments. I know you're loving the show, and I know you love geography. Great to have it. And as you can see, anybody can read the weather. No, not just anybody. You've got to understand all these different aspects in order to answer those questions that are going to be there in your matric paper. Back to the first question before the ad break. Name the anticyclone labeled B. The anticyclone labeled B, remember, is occurring over the Indian Ocean, and this anticyclone is referred to as your South Indian high pressure. Remember, high pressure is another term for anticyclone. Low pressure is another term for cyclone. Stands to reason. Your tropical cyclone and your mid-latitude cyclones are low pressure systems. In this case, we're dealing with the high pressure systems on the synoptic weather map. Let's look at the next question. Give a reason why pressure systems B and C are known as anticyclones. I want you to note the following. On any synoptic weather map, when a high pressure system is shown, these high pressure systems are dominated by the highest pressure in the center. And note, let's change the color. As you move from the center of the system outwards, the pressure decreases. These pressures are referred to as isobars. As you move from the center out of the pressure system, all these isobars are decreasing in pressure. So what you've got to understand is that a high pressure system has the highest pressure in the center. So my correct answer would be give a reason why the pressure systems B and C are known as anticyclones. They are associated with anti-clockwise movement of air, and their highest pressure is in the center. Okay, let's move on to the next question. A group of students must go on a field trip to Durban on the day presented by the synoptic weather map. What temperature will they experience on the day of their field trip? Note, an accentuated diagram is given in this synoptic weather map that shows you essentially what the weather conditions are in Durban. In this particular diagram, remember that is your weather station. Your weather station is giving you cloud cover, maximum temperatures, minimum temperatures, as well as wind speed and wind direction. In this case, the maximum temperature given is 21 degrees Celsius. Remember also the following. 21 degrees Celsius is your maximum temp. Let's move on to the next question. Briefly describe how the front label D is formed. If we look at this particular diagram and this particular synoptic weather map, there's your cold front, which is moving to the correct west coast of South Africa. I want you to note the following. This question asks, how is your cold front formed? In this example, you must remember, your fronts are basically developed at the polar front, which is a 60 degrees south and north latitude. The polar front is associated with warm and cold air masses. Your warm air mass and cold air masses meet at 60 degree latitude and therefore uplift. These two air masses are separated by what we call a front. Remember, when you have masses, air masses of different temperatures, they do not mix with each other, but rather they remain separated by what we call a front. In this case, we've got on our synoptic map a cold front. Remember, your cold fronts generally have two types of sectors, a warm sector and a cold sector. The moment you see a cold front, know that in front of the cold front is what we have, warm air. Behind the cold front is cold air. What are the properties of warm air? Warm air rises, cold air sinks. So always in front of the cold front, you have your weather conditions. The moment you are able to see these cold fronts, remember, in front of the cold front is where your weather conditions occur. Behind the cold front, you have cold, dry, descending air. How's that, Ty?
I think that was a lot of information. But on that note, I think we should tackle the challenge question now.
Excellent. Let's go to the challenge questions, guys. I hope you've answered, and who's going to be our lucky winner? Let's look at the question. The lines on the synoptic weather map linking places of equal pressure are known as isotherms. Sorry. Let's get the color in there. Isotherms, isobars, isotopes. Isotopes is immediately out. You cannot have isotopes. That's a physical science concept. I'm happy if you didn't answer that one. Isotherms, definitely wrong. Why? Because we are talking about pressure. And if it's pressure, you should know isobars. Remember, isotherms refers to lines joining places of equal temperature. Isotopes is a physical science concept. So you have to have the correct answer as isobars. Isobars are lines drawn on maps joining places of equal pressure. And the instrument used to measure those isobars is your barometer. How's that, Ty?
I think that was perfect because we actually have a winner
We've
now.
got a winner. Who's that
yes,
winner?
and our winner is Tabiso Mampa via
Excellent.
Facebook. Congratulations, you're going to get these awesome hampers sent to you, this awesome CD, and these winter school books. So make sure you look out for that. And I hope this is not a once-off just because you saw we're giving away things. I hope you're going to make sure that you stay on with us and make sure that throughout the year, you're going to keep posting, you're going to tell friends, you're going to make sure you guys all come onto the page and chat with us, because that's actually the point of this platform, to make sure that these kids keep talking to each other.
Excellent, Ty. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. And I hope you've enjoyed this session. Congratulations to the winner. Hey?
Exactly. So actually, before we actually wrap up, I just want to find out, there's another couple of questions that I have here. I don't know if you want to just tackle them quickly. So one of the mindset is, Vanessa, she says, how many winds are we having, and explain each one of them, as in right now, during the whole winter phase that we're in right now, the kinds of winds that we expect.
Well, generally your winter winds will be your berg winds, okay? But not on the high felt. Remember, the high felt is where your dominant Kalahari high pressure system is. And from the high felt, the air moves downslope over the escarpment, for example, over the Drakensberg, down to the east coast where a coastal low is. So no, you're going to have winds, but not the berg wind. The berg wind is a wind experience along the coastline by coastal dwellers. How's that, Ty?
Yeah, I think that's great. I actually might have one more question.
Let's get it.
Yes. Yes. Kamuhelo wanted to find out, please explain what a doldrum is and where and how does it occur?
Again?
A doldrum. She wanted to find out where and how does it occur?
Okay, remember your doldrums is associated with the ITCZ. Your doldrum area is generally in your tropical easterly wind belt, which is at a 0-degree equator. Your doldrums is generally a term that is used to describe your equator. Okay, so remember, you've got 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. Your tropical easterly, subtropical high pressure belt is called, correct, your horse latitude. Ty, back to you.
I think that's about everything we can squeeze in. So guys, I hope this session helped you guys out. And again, I want to say congratulations to Taviso Mampa. Sorry if I butchered your name. I'm so sorry. But yes, congratulations. We're going to have these hampers sent to you. And we want to send a quick shout out and thank you to Liberty. But for me, next time, I will see you and cheers.